Hi everyone. First of all, let me thank you all for coming here today. Here is Amy and your online series of accounting course for beginners, Account Double Any Trouble. My topic will be very important for you because you will learn how to prepare the worksheet, the main financial statements and the closing entries. I introduce the financial statements for a sole proprietorship, and third, I give you overview of the closing entries. What you'll learn today. Explain the purpose of the worksheet. Describe the parts of a 6-column worksheet. Prepare a 6-column worksheet. Calculate net income and net loss. Explain the purpose of the income statement. Prepare an income statement. Explain the purpose of the statement of changes in owner's equity. Prepare a statement of changes in owner's equity. Explain the purpose of the balance sheet. Prepare a balance sheet. Explain the purpose of the statement of cash flows. Explain why it is necessary to update accounts through closing entries. Explain the purpose of the income summary account. Explain the relationship between the income summary account and the capital account. Analyze and journalize the closing entries. Post the closing entries to the general ledger. Prepare a post-closing trial balance. Keywords for this session are, net income, net loss, ruling, worksheet, financial statements, balance sheet, statement of cash flows, statement of changes in owner's equity, income statement, closing entries, income summary account, post-closing trial balance. So, let me first give you an overview of a worksheet. Preparing the worksheet. What is the purpose of a worksheet? As you learned in previous, the length of an accounting period can vary. The maximum period covered by the accounting cycle is 1 year. The first 5 steps of the accounting cycle are performed frequently during the cycle. The last 4 steps, preparing a worksheet, preparing financial statements, journalizing and posting closing entries, and preparing a post-closing trial balance are performed at the end of the accounting period. Look at Exhibit. In this chapter you will learn how to prepare a worksheet, the 6th step of the accounting cycle. With this step, businesses collect information from their ledger accounts and record this information on a single form. A worksheet is just what its name implies, a working paper, used to collect information from the ledger accounts in one place. Like the T account, the worksheet is a tool that the accountant uses. With the worksheet, an accountant gathers all of the information needed to prepare the financial statements and to complete the other end-of-period activities. A worksheet may be prepared in pencil on standard multi-column accounting paper. The paper comes in several sizes and is usually printed without column headings. Blank spaces for column headings allow the accountant to enter the headings needed by a particular business. The worksheet can also be prepared using computer spreadsheet software. Now, let's take a look at the worksheet sections. How is the worksheet organized? The Net Solutions worksheet, shown in figure, has 5 sections: the heading, the account name section, the trial balance section, the income statement section, the balance sheet section. The account name section includes a column for the account number and a column for the account name. The trial balance, income statement, and balance sheet sections have debit and credit amount columns. The 6 amount columns give this worksheet its name, the 6-column worksheet. The worksheet heading. The worksheet heading contains 3 kinds of information: the name of the business, the name of the accounting form, the period covered by the worksheet. Notice how these elements are positioned on the worksheet in figure. Follow this format when preparing the heading of any worksheet. Moving on the next part, the account name section. Information for the account name and trial balance sections comes from the general ledger accounts. In previous session you prepared a trial balance by listing the account names and their final balances. A trial balance can be prepared at any time during the accounting period to prove the general ledger. When a trial balance is prepared at the end of an accounting period, though, it is prepared as a part of the worksheet. Look at the worksheet in Exhibit. The account numbers and names are from NetSolutions General Ledger and are listed on the worksheet in the same order that they appear in the General Ledger: assets, liabilities, owner's equity, revenue, expenses. All of the General Ledger accounts are listed on the worksheet, even those that have a zero balance. Listing all of the accounts avoids accidentally omitting an account and ensures that the worksheet contains all accounts needed to prepare the financial reports. The trial balance section. The end-of-period balance in the General Ledger for each account is entered in the appropriate amount column of the trial balance section. Accounts with debit balances are entered in the trial balance debit column. Accounts with credit balances are entered in the trial balance credit column. If an account has a zero balance at the end of the period, a line is drawn in the normal balance column. Ruling the trial balance section. Ruling means drawing a line. In accounting, a single rule, or line, drawn under a column of amounts means that the entries above the rule are ready to be totaled. After all account names and balances have been entered on the worksheet, a single rule is drawn under the last entry and across both amount columns of the trial balance section as shown in Exhibit. The debit and credit columns are now ready for totaling. Totaling the trial balance section. If the ledger balances, the total debits will equal the total credits. Look at Exhibit. The totals match, with each column totaling $42,600. Since total debits equal total credits, a double rule is drawn across both amount columns just beneath the totals. This double rule means that the amounts just above it are totals and that no other entries will be made in the trial balance columns. If the total debits do not equal the total credits, there is an error. Find and correct the error before completing the worksheet. Procedures for locating errors are discussed in 4th session. Let's now turn to the balance sheet section. The balance sheet section of the worksheet contains the asset, liability and owner's equity accounts. After proving the trial balance section, extend, or transfer, the appropriate amounts to the balance sheet section. To do this, copy the trial balance section amounts for the asset, liability, and owner's equity accounts to the appropriate balance sheet amount columns. Start with the first account and extend each account balance. Extend debit amounts to the balance sheet debit column. Extend credit amounts to the balance sheet credit column. Figure shows the balances extended to the balance sheet section, the income statement section. The next step in completing the worksheet is to extend the appropriate account balances to the income statement section. The income statement section contains the revenue and expense accounts. After transferring the asset, liability, and owner's equity account balances to the balance sheet section, extend the revenue and expense account balances to the income statement section. Revenue accounts have a normal credit balance, so extend their balances to the income statement credit column. Since expense accounts have a normal debit balance, extend expense account balances to the debit column of the income statement section. Exhibit shows the amounts in the debit and credit columns of the income statement section. Let's now take a look at completing the worksheet. In the previous section you learned how to set up the worksheet and prove the trial balance section. In this section you will learn how to extend the account balances and compute net income or net loss. What are the balance sheet and income statement? The balance sheet and income statement are financial statements prepared at the end of the accounting period. The worksheet organizes the information for these reports, the effects of net income or net loss on capital. The worksheet's income statement section shows the period's revenue and expenses. The gap matching principle requires matching expenses incurred in an accounting period with the revenue earned in the same period. Why is the net income also shown in the balance sheet section of the worksheet? Matching expenses with revenue gives a reliable measure of profit by showing the dollar value of resources used to produce the revenue. Owners and managers use this information to analyze results and make decisions. Remember, revenue and expense accounts are temporary accounts. As you can see in Exhibit, revenues increase capital, while expenses decrease capital. Net income, therefore, increases capital since revenues exceed expenses. In this part of my presentation, I'd like to talk about totaling the income statement and balance sheet sections. After all amounts have been extended to the balance sheet and income statement sections, these sections are totaled. A single rule drawn across the 4 debit and credit columns indicates that the columns are ready to be added. Unlike the trial balance section debit and credit totals, the debit and credit column totals in these 2 sections will not be equal until the net income or net loss for the period is added. During the accounting period, revenue and expense amounts are recorded in the temporary accounts. At the end of the period, net income will be transferred to the owner's capital account. Since the capital account is increased by credits, the amount of the net income is entered in the credit column of the balance sheet section of the worksheet. To check the accuracy of the net income amount in the balance sheet section, subtract the total of the credit column from the total of the debit column. If the result does not equal net income, there is an error. Before continuing, you must find and correct the error. To find the error, check that the amounts from the trial balance section are extended correctly and that the totals of all columns are added correctly, showing net income on the worksheet. After the income statement section columns have been totaled, total expenses, debit column total, are subtracted from total revenue, credit column total, to find net income. Net income is the amount of revenue that remains after expenses for the period have been subtracted. Net income is entered as a debit at the bottom of the income statement section of the worksheet. Look at Exhibit. Net Solutions net income is $8,225. Follow these steps. Step A. Skip a line after the last account and write the words net income in the account name column. Step B. On the same line, enter the net income amount in the income statement debit column. Step C. On the same line, enter the net income amount in the balance sheet credit column. Take a look of completing the worksheet. The completed worksheet for Net Solutions is shown in Exhibit. To complete the income statement and balance sheet sections, follow these steps. Step D. On the line under the net income amount, draw a single rule across the 4 columns. Step E. In the income statement section, debit column, add the net income amount to the previous total and enter the new total. Bring down the total of the income statement section, credit column. Total debits should equal total credits. Step F. In the balance sheet section, credit column, add net income to the previous total and enter the new total. Bring down the total of the balance sheet section, debit column. The total debit amount should equal the total credit amount. Step G. In the balance sheet and income statement sections, draw a double rule under the 4 column totals. The double rule indicates that the debit and credit columns are equal and that no more amounts are to be entered in these columns. That brings me to the end of first section. Take a look at showing a net loss on the worksheet. What if total expenses are more than total revenue? When that happens, a net loss occurs. A net loss decreases owner's equity. This decrease will eventually be shown as a debit to the capital account. When a net loss occurs, the steps to complete the worksheet are the same as described for net income except that the words net loss are written in the account name column. The net loss amount is entered in the credit column of the income statement section and in the debit column of the balance sheet section. The worksheet in figure shows a net loss. Expenses exceed revenue by $775. Financials.